Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're taking a look at Payday Aces High, developed by Fast Travel Games, after my testing of both the PCVR and Quest versions in single player and in multiplayer. The current release schedule is the 3rd or 4th quarter of 2026, so technically we don't actually have a release date yet, so please do not treat this as a full review, but more of a sort of playtesting feedback session and first impressions. Payday Aces High appears to have 6 maps in the works, and they've mentioned on social media there'll be one more map as free DLC which will come before the end of the year. And in terms of when I think this game will actually release, I believe they'll be aiming for October. But there is still plenty of work left to do from what I've experienced in this early access version. Payday's core gameplay loop is to plan a heist, enter the environment, either single player with AI or with a team online, look for ways to break in, potentially without causing all hell to break loose, and then rob the place. And in my 4 to 5 hours with Payday, it's been extremely difficult to avoid actually getting into a fight. In fact, the game tells you to expect a fight pretty much all of the time and not to think of going loud with your guns as a mission failure. When you start the game, you'll be in the game's main lobby. This will be your central hub between missions. Here, you get to choose your character, loadout, mission, invite other players, get your mission briefing, select your mission difficulty, buy accessories, check your unlockables, do some training, there's level stats, and there's also a firing range. There's 4 characters to choose from, all with different tactical loadouts in the form of deployables and abilities. When you use the shop, everything seems to be available for purchase for some very ridiculously high prices, but this might be just for this version to stop players maxing out everything as this game goes live for playtesting. Now I want to quickly speak on Payday's presentation for both platforms. The PC version has no graphical options yet, and it is basically a replica of the Quest version. There's just a lot less jaggies, some nicer lighting, and it felt smoother in terms of frame rate. Overall, Payday Aces High is an okay looking game. It won't impress you, but it is good enough, especially for standalone. There are some shiny bits and pieces, and some models like the guns, and especially the character masks, look really good. But there's also some oddities, like seeing your guns change colour to the environment in bits and pieces as you move around. One part of the gun can be shaded like it's nighttime, while the rest of the gun looks coloured like it's early evening. I also want to add, I think not having a body in Payday is a really big negative and a missed opportunity, because the outfits, I think when you choose your character, are really cool. And as I said before, there is no real way of knowing who you are, and even in multiplayer, because we're not wearing our masks, no one actually knew what character they had picked. Now we need to talk about the weapons, because I know a lot of you are very interested in how this game will feel to play. We have interactive slides, but none of the guns are physical to the touch outside of being able to hold them two-handed, but they are physical to the environment. Reloading though is made sort of childlike, seeing the magazines being on some sort of invisible rail system when you put the magazine near the vicinity of the lower part of your gun. It's a very strange experience, but only if you slow down to see it happen, because I believe the idea is the invisible mechanism is there to aid players from making mistakes while reloading. So if you're quick, you won't notice this reloading assistance. It's not bad, but it does remove any chance of realism, so I hope this is going to be an option for players to turn on and off. For example, the classic cock, latch and slap mechanism of the MP5 simply does not exist in this game, and as this video goes on, you're going to realise that realism is not an ingredient you'll find anywhere in Payday Aces High recipe. When shooting any gun, the recoil penalty in this game is also a little bit confusing. Shooting any gun single-handed seems to be more accurate, or as accurate as using the guns two-handed. For example, using a rifle single-handed has less recoil than if you two-handed it. You can physically empty the clips, but visibly you'll still be able to see the bullets. Also, two-handed any weapon has some sort of snapback penalty if you try to move your arms around too much. But the weapons are good looking and they are satisfying to reload, especially the shotguns. Now don't get me wrong, I didn't go into this game wanting to pull it apart, but it's kind of my job to test VR games, and as soon as one thing happens that I don't expect, it sends me down a rabbit hole, and Payday has definitely rewarded my curiosity many times so far. So upon entering the one mission in single player, the rest of the AI team will stay back at the entrance while you do some reconnaissance. You are only armed with your mask and a silenced pistol until you put on your mask, and that's when you become a visible threat to anyone in this level. And this is when your weapons and gadgets also become fully available, and the silenced gun that you had on your hip suddenly loses the silencer, and I feel that is a little bit odd. Now, I'm not here to tell you how to complete this mission, but you can't really interact with the environment, so don't expect me opening windows and vaulting inside the building or grabbing bodies, which I feel again is a bit of a shame, and also just shutting and opening doors isn't a thing. I noticed there was a grapple point painted yellow, which I have tried multiple times in single player and multiplayer, but I always get seen anyway. There's a bank chief or bank director that has a code on her person, and you can use your watch to get the code from her, and then I'm assuming hack a terminal or open the bank vault. But like I said, by the time we thought about even doing this, we were seen and being shot at. So what you do with this code is still a bit of an unknown to me, but every attempt me and my partner made, we simply couldn't get through this mission without shooting everyone, which is a little bit disappointing because the shooting sections in this game are not that great, and it turns out that Payday is actually a wave-based shooter, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, things you need to look for in this game are key codes, switches, and safe codes, but in regard to the safes, you don't actually need a combination code because the combination dials reset to 0 whenever you go wrong, which is basically like telling you the combination that you need to open the safes. Your chosen difficulty determines how quickly enemy variants level up, from casual guards to light armoured to heavy armoured to shotgunners, shielded troopers, snipers and boss types. In the hardest difficulty, it was stupidly tough, which is kinda cool, except I couldn't help but notice the enemy's health magically increases. At first, one headshot is enough, and as I said, they come in waves, so at 1 minute they're attacking and then the next minute they just all run off. But by the time they come back for the 4th or 5th round, so you actually end up taking 5 or 6 headshots for each enemy, and eventually they just don't go away. So what happens is you end up just running out of ammo. Also, your AI teammates are pretty useless overall, but then so is the enemy AI, so it kind of balances out. Breaking into the vault though is the big highlight of Payday. Calling in a drone to bring down the drill, and then playing a minigame to keep the drill working while the rest of the team is mowing down the enemy is a cool feeling, and it can be tense. Once inside, you grab the items like the big cash bags, which you can carry or throw to your teammates to carry, or you can physically hold wads of cash and absorb them. Holding the big bags does cause a speed penalty, and obviously you've then lost the use of one of your arms, so these shootouts are actually a highlight. Now, this is obviously first impressions, and there's lots of skills and unlockables that I haven't tested or invested in yet, which will obviously help me and my team succeed when the game fully releases. But my overall thoughts are the game's presentation combined with the pretty average wave shooter gameplay and not very smart AI behaviour has made me come away feeling a little bit let down in comparison to my hype after seeing the trailers. I did have some fun, but the wave shooter thing got old pretty quickly, along with the lack of interactions. I really wanted to feel like I was more connected to the environment. While saying all this though, Payday Aces High could be very different in a few months down the line, and most importantly, it is actually fun to play with friends, but longevity is something I do worry about. But right now, I do feel Payday is gearing up to be more of an arcade-like online co-op experience, and that might actually be a good thing when it's in its final form. I want to say good luck to Fast Travel Games, and be sure to check the links in this video's description to check out the Payday Aces High playtest that is live right now, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments below and in our community Discord. Thanks for watching, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.